My brother slept with my wife, and I raised his child as my own. Years later, his other kids showed up asking for access to my success, so I revealed the truth and made it clear they get nothing from what I built. The LinkedIn notification popped up while I was reviewing quarterly reports. Professional headshot polished profile. University of Minnesota listed under education. Viral thorn. I did not recognize the name, but the message preview made my jaw tighten. Hi Zarin, I know this is out of the blue, but I have been following Nix on social media and I clicked it open. The full message was worse polite, carefully worded. The kind of reach out that someone rehearses before sending. She had seen Nix at some networking event in Denver last month. Mentioned his internship with the Trade Commission, the conferences he speaks at, the life I spent 15 years building for him. Then came the Ask Men mentorship opportunities, guidance, maybe some introductions in the commodity sector, since that is where you have so much experience. I stared at her profile picture. 19 years old, kale eyes. Not her fault she had his eyes, but there it was. I closed the laptop, poured myself coffee, sat with it for 20 minutes. Nix is 23 now, graduated top of his class, works in international trade negotiations, has the kind of confidence that comes from never doubting whether someone has your back. We talk twice a week. He never asks for handouts, just advice, perspective, the occasional reality check when he is overthinking something. That is what I built, not a dependent, a professional. My phone buzzed, another message from Viral. I know my dad and you had a falling out years ago, but family is family, right? My brother Sora and I would really love to connect. Nix is our half-brother after all, and it seems like you have been such an amazing mentor to him. Family is family. I read that line 3 times. The audacity of it was almost impressive. 15 years of radio silence, and now they show up because they saw what success looks like and decided they wanted in. Not because they gave a darn about Nix when he was 8 years old and his world was imploding. Not because they checked in during middle school, high school, college. Because they saw the result and wanted access to the resource. I could have ignored it, blocked her, let it die quietly. But something about that phrase, family is family, stuck in my throat like a bone. I opened my laptop, typed out a response. Coffee. Saturday, 2:00 p.m., the Westmont on Archer Street. Private room. Bring your father. Sent. Then I made a reservation. Private dining room. Quiet. Professional. The kind of place where conversations happen without interruptions. I walked to my home office, unlocked the bottom drawer of my desk. Inside were 2 folders I have not touched in months. The first one I have had for 15 years. Divorce papers with Lyra's signature. Financial transfer records showing how I moved every asset into Nix Education Trust before she could touch it. Bank statements proving Kale and Lyra little afternoon adventures while I was working 70-hour weeks. Text message logs, hundreds of them, and the DNA test, the one that came back with a number I will never forget, 0% probability of paternity. I set that folder aside. Open the second one. This one is newer, prepared by my attorney last week after I got the first message from Viral and knew where this was heading. The first document inside is 15 years old though. I pulled it out, ran my finger across the heading, voluntary termination of parental rights and claims. Kale's signature at the bottom, dated 3 days after I got the DNA results. He signed it in a diner at 6 in the morning because I gave him 2 options: sign and disappear clean, or face a public paternity case that would have destroyed what was left of his music career. He chose the easy exit like he always does. Beneath that document is something more recent. The trust structure I established and fortified over the years. Nix is the sole beneficiary of my estate, my business connections, my resources. Irrevocable without his consent, the language is airtight. Even if I wanted to add someone else, I would need Nick's signature. I made sure of that because I knew this day would come. Maybe not from Viral specifically, but from someone in Kale orbit who would eventually see what I built and decide they deserved a piece. I closed both folders, stacked them neatly. Saturday, 2 days away. They are expecting mentorship advice, maybe some networking introductions, a conversation about fairness and second chances and how families should stick together. They are going to get something else entirely. I am going to lay out every document, every date, every signature. I am going to show them exactly what their father did, what he signed away, and why the legal structures I built 15 years ago mean this conversation is pointless before it even starts. No yelling, no emotions, just facts. And then I am going to walk out and let them sit with the weight of it. I placed both folders in my bag, locked the drawer, my phone buzzed. Viral again. Thank you so much. We will be there. Really looking forward to it. I did not respond. 2 days. Then they would understand exactly why Nix gets what he gets and why they never will. Not because I am cruel, because I am consistent. And 15 years ago, when their father had a choice between being consistent or being convenient, he chose wrong. Now they get to live with that. 15 years ago, I was 27. When the numbers stopped adding up, it started with something stupid. I was organizing our filing cabinet, tax documents, medical records, the usual household paperwork you shove in a drawer and forget about. Found Nick's hospital discharge papers from when he was born. The date was right, April 14th. But the note said full-term delivery, 39 weeks, 6 days. I sat there staring at it for a solid minute. Lyra had always said Nick's came early, 2 weeks premature, she told everyone. Her mom still brought it up at family dinners, how scared they were, how tiny he was. I have been working a contract in Singapore when she went into labor. Flew back to meet my son when he was already 3 days old, except if he was full term. I pulled out my work calendar from that year, found the Singapore assignment. 6 weeks late, January through early March. I have been gone for the entire window when Nick's would have been conceived. My hands went cold. I told myself I was wrong, that I was misremembering, that hospital paperwork gets things mixed up all the time. But I was not wrong. I started looking closer. Bank statements from that year, Lyra credit card charges, lunches at restaurants I had never heard of, hotel charges in the middle of weekdays, all during February and March, all while I was halfway across the world closing deals. Then I found the phone bill. Hundreds of text messages, all to the same number. I cross-referenced it with my contacts. Cale, my brother, the one who had been crashing in our guest room because his music career was not panning out and he needed a place to get back on his feet. The one who had stayed for 6 months, ate our food, used our Wi-Fi, complained about how the industry did not understand his sound. The one who moved out suddenly right after Nick's was born. Lyra said they had had some kind of argument, creative differences. Cale needed his own space. It made sense at the time. Now it made a different kind of sense. I did not confront anyone, did not yell, did not break things. I ordered a DNA test online, overnight shipping. When it arrived, I waited for the right moment. Nick's had a sore throat that week, nothing serious, but I took him to the clinic anyway. While the nurse was checking his temperature, I swabbed his cheek. Told him it was to test for strep. He believed me. Why would not he? I was his dad. I swabbed my own cheek in the car on the way home. Sealed both samples, dropped them at FedEx that afternoon. 2 weeks. That is how long the lab said it would take. I went to work, came home, had dinner with my wife and the boy I had raised since birth, helped with homework, read bedtime stories, pretended everything was normal. Because maybe it was. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe there was an explanation. The envelope arrived on a Thursday. I saw it in the mailbox when I got home from work. Plain white envelope, lab logo, in the corner. My hands shook when I opened it. I sat in my car in the driveway and read the results 3 times. Probability of paternity 0.0%, not 1%. Not a margin of error, 0. Nick's was not mine. I sat there for an hour, maybe longer. The sun set, the streetlights came on. I watched our neighbors walk their dog past my car. Watched the lights in my house flick on as Lyra moved from room to room. I waited for something to break inside me, for rage, grief, whatever you are supposed to feel when your entire life revealed itself as a lie. Instead, I felt clarity, cold, sharp, absolute. I pulled out my phone, made 3 calls. First, a divorce attorney I had met at a networking event left a voicemail asking for an emergency consultation. Second, my financial advisor asked about asset protection strategies and education trusts. Third, a family court mediator asked about custody arrangements when paternity was not contested. Then I got out of the car. Lyra was in the kitchen when I walked in, humming to herself while she unpacked groceries. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey, you are late." "Rough day, long meeting," I said. Nick's came running from the living room. "Dad, can you help me with my science project?" I picked him up, hugged him. He wrapped his arms around my neck and squeezed. "Sure, buddy. Give me 10 minutes to change." Over his head, I looked at Lyra. She was still smiling, putting away cereal boxes. Completely unaware, I set Nick's down, walked upstairs, changed out of my suit. In my briefcase, the DNA test sat next to my laptop. Tomorrow morning before Lyra woke up, I would make one more call to Cale, not to yell, not to threaten, to give him exactly one chance to sign away his rights voluntarily or face a public paternity case that would bury what was left of his music career before it even started. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tonight, I helped my son glue cotton balls onto a poster board and explained how clouds form, because whatever happened next, that part was not changing. Nick's was mine. Biology could go to heck. I called Kale at 6 in the morning. He answered on the fourth ring, voice thick with sleep. Zarin, what? Meet me at Bernie Diner on 5th. 1 hour. Come alone. What is this about 1 hour? I hung up. I got there first. Ordered coffee, sat in a back booth where we would not be overheard. Placed the folder on the table in front of me. Kale walked in at 7 sharp, looking confused and nervous. He slid into the booth across from me, started to say something. I pushed the folder across the table. Open it. He did. I watched his face as he processed what he was seeing. The DNA test on top, then the timeline underneath, then the phone record showing hundreds of texts between him and Lyra. The color drained from his face. Zarin, listen. You have 2 options. My voice was flat. Professional, like I was negotiating a contract. Option 1, I file a contested paternity case. Public record. Your name, Lyra, name, the affair, timeline, all of it. Discovery process means everything gets subpoenaed. Texts, hotel records, everything. I am guessing that will play great when you are trying to book venues for your album release next month. He opened his mouth, closed it. Option 2, you sign this. I pulled out a legal document I had drawn up the night before. Voluntary termination of parental rights and claims. You walk away clean. No public records, no scandal, no child support obligations because you are not claiming him. No rights to him either. I cannot just, you already did. I tapped the phone records. You made your choice when you were sleeping with my wife in hotels I paid for. This just makes it legal. His hands were shaking. He is my son. No, he is the kid you helped create while living in my house. There is a difference. I pulled out a pen, placed it on top of the document. You have 5 minutes to decide. Zarin, please. 4 minutes, now. He stared at the document, at the DNA test, at me. Then he picked up the pen and signed. I took the document back, folded it, put it in my briefcase, stood up. Do not contact Lyra. Do not contact Nix. You are done. I left him sitting there. Did not look back. Lyra was next. I filed for divorce that afternoon. Irreconcilable differences, no mention of infidelity, no paternity fight. My attorney structured it so I would get primary physical custody of Nix. Full decision-making authority. Lyra could have supervised visitation if she wanted it. She would not want it once she understood the alternative. Before I filed, I moved fast on the assets. Our joint savings account, $43,000, transferred into an irrevocable education trust for Nix. My name is trustee. Legally untouchable by either of us for anything except his education. The house was in my name only. Bought it 2 years before we got married. Her art studio equipment, I had helped her finance it last year, all on credit cards she had signed for. That debt was hers. I waited until evening. Sat her down at the kitchen table after Nix was in bed. Slid the divorce papers across to her. She looked at them, looked at me. What is this exactly? What it looks like, Zarin. We can work through whatever. Sign it or I file contested with cause and subpoena Kale as a witness. Her face went white. You know, sign it. I can explain. I do not want you to. I want you to sign the papers and move out by the end of the month. Her hands trembled as she picked up the pen. What about Nix? He stays with me. You cannot just take him. I pulled out my phone, showed her the DNA test results. She stared at the screen, started crying. I can fight for custody, I said quietly. I can make this very public and very ugly. Or you can sign and we handle this like adults who made mistakes. She signed within 2 days. But I was not done. I had my attorney draft something permanent, a trust structure that designated Nix as the sole beneficiary of my estate, my business connections, my resources. The language was airtight. Even if I wanted to add someone later, I would need Nick's written consent to modify it. I made sure of that. Then I packed everything we owned, gave notice at work, found a new position in a different state. Better pay, better opportunities, and 800 miles from Lyra and Kale. I sat Nix down before we left, kept it simple. Your mom and I are not going to be married anymore, but you are staying with me. That is not changing. Why? His voice was small, because sometimes grown-ups make decisions that do not work out. But you did not do anything wrong. And I am not going anywhere. Promise. Promise. We moved, started over, built a new life. Years passed. Nix grew. I built my career back up. We never talked about Lyra or Kale. They faded into background noise until Nick's 18th birthday. I handed him a sealed envelope across the dinner table. You are an adult now. If you want the full story, it is in here. If not, we burn it together. He stared at it, opened it slowly, read the first page, the DNA test. His face did not change. He looked up at me. Did you ever regret keeping me? I did not hesitate. Not for 1 second. He closed the envelope. Then I do not need the rest. We burned it that night, stood together in front of the fireplace, and watched the pages curl and blacken and turn to ash. The past disappeared into smoke. But I kept copies locked in my desk drawer because I knew even then that one day Kale World would crack. And when it did, I would be ready. Present day. Saturday came. I arrived at the Westmont 15 minutes early. Checked in with the host, confirmed the private room, made sure the setup was right. Round table, 4 chairs, no distractions, just us and whatever came next. I sat down with both folders in front of me, ordered water, waited. They showed up at 2 on the dot. Viral came in first, dressed professionally. College kid trying to look businesslike. Sora followed, 17, uncomfortable in a button-down that did not quite fit. Then Kale. He looked older, grayer, the kind of tired that comes from years of small compromises stacking up. He would not meet my eyes. Viral smiled, extended her hand. Zarin, thank you so much for meeting with us. I know it has been a long time. I shook her hand, gestured to the chairs. Sit. They did. Sora looked around nervously. Kel stared at the table. Viral jumped into small talk like she had rehearsed it. This place is beautiful. Have you been here before? Sora and I were just saying how nice it is to finally. Why are you here? She stopped mid-sentence. Blinked. We wanted to talk about, say it clearly. She glanced at Kale. He did not help her. We see how well Nix is doing. She said carefully, and we wondered if maybe there is room for us to learn from you too. Mentorship guidance. You have obviously been an incredible influence on him, and we are family. So for what? I leaned forward slightly. Be specific. Sora spoke up, voice quiet. Opportunities. The kind of access Nix has. Introductions in your field. We are family, Viral added. Like that explained everything. I looked at each of them. Let the silence sit for a moment. Then I reached down, pulled both folders from my bag, and placed them on the table. I am going to show you something. You do not get to speak until I am finished. Understood. They nodded. They, confused, uncertain. I opened the first folder, pulled out a document, slid it across the table to Viral. Read that. She picked it up. Her eyes moved across the page. I watched the exact moment she understood what she was looking at. Her face went pale. What is this, a paternity test? Dated 15 years ago. I kept my voice level. Nix is not my biological son. He is Kale. The room went silent. Sora grabbed the document from his sister. Read it. Looked at his father. Dad. Kale did not respond. I pulled out more documents, slid them across one by one. April 14th. Full-term pregnancy. I was in Singapore for all of March and half of February that year. Your father was living in my guest room. Bank statements. Next, these show expenditures at hotels and restaurants. Afternoons. While I was overseas working to support both of them, then the phone records, 6 months of text messages, hundreds of them. I laid out the timeline, clean, methodical, every piece of evidence aligned. Viral stared at Kale. You had an affair with his wife. Kale jaw worked. No words came out. Sora voice shook. Nix is our full brother. Biologically, I said yes. Viral looked at me, then at the documents, then back at her father. I do not understand. If he is not your son, why did you raise him? Why are you still? Because being a father is not about biology. It is about showing up. Kale finally spoke, voice. Zarin. I held up one hand. I said, you do not speak until I am finished. His mouth closed. I reached for the second folder, the newer one, pulled it toward me and opened it slowly. The first document inside was crisp. Fresh legal letterhead across the top. I slid it across the table. Kale's face drained of color as he read the heading. Irrevocable trust and beneficiary designation. Viral looked between the document and her father, then at me. What is this? I leaned back in my chair, folded my hands. This is why you wasted your time coming here. I tapped the document in front of Kale. This is the trust structure I established 15 years ago. Nix is the sole beneficiary of my estate, my business connections, my mentorship resources, legally binding, irrevocable, without his consent. I pulled out another page from the folder, slid it next to the first. And this is the termination of parental rights your father signed the day I found out about the affair. Voluntary, legal, permanent. Viral grabbed it, read it, her hands started shaking. You made him sign away his son. No, I gave him a choice. I kept my tone. Matter of fact, public paternity case with full discovery or a clean exit. He chose the exit. 6 a.m. at a diner on 5th Street. Took him less than 5 minutes to decide. She looked at Cale. Is that true? He did not answer. Dad, her voice cracked. Is it true I was 25, he said quietly. I was scared. I did not know what to. I do not care. My voice cut through his excuse like a blade. He stopped talking. You made a choice. I made mine. I chose Nick's. I raised him. I paid for his education. I taught him how to negotiate, how to network, how to build something that lasts. Biology means nothing. Commitment means everything. Sora leaned forward, desperate. But we are his siblings, his full siblings. Does not that have siblings he has never met and does not care to know? The words landed hard. Sora flinched. I continued. You want to know why I treat Nick differently because he earned it. By being the kind of man worth investing in. By showing up every day and choosing integrity over convenience. By never once asking me for something he had not worked for. I gathered the documents back toward me. Straighten them. You came here expecting fairness. What you do not understand is that fairness already happened. Nick got a father who stayed. You got the one who did not. Those are the consequences of choices made 15 years ago. Cale stood up suddenly. His chair scraped against the floor. Zarin, they are just kids. They do not deserve to be punished for my mistakes. Sit down. He sat. I am not punishing them. I am simply not rewarding them. There is a difference. I stood, adjusted my jacket, looked at each of them in turn. Viral eyes were red. Sora looked like he had been hit. Cale just looked broken. This dinner is over. Do not contact me again. Do not contact Nyx. The trust is ironclad. The contracts are signed. There is nothing to negotiate, nothing to discuss. Cale's voice was raw. You cannot just... I reached into the second folder one more time, pulled out the last document, placed it directly in front of Cale. It was a cease and desist template pre-filled with his name. Today, date in the corner. If you or your children attempt to contact Nyx or interfere with his life in any way, this gets filed. Harassment. Attempted financial coercion. I have attorneys who would love the billable hours. I tap the document. The contracts you cannot fight. Those are the ones you signed 15 years ago in that diner. The history you cannot rewrite. That is the one you created when you were sleeping with my wife while I was paying your rent. Viral started to cry quietly like she was trying not to. I picked up both folders, tucked them under my arm. We are done here. Kel stood again. His voice shook. Zarin, please, just listen. No. I turned toward the door. Behind me, Viral voice broke through. Wait, please. Just... I reached for the door handle, did not turn around, did not pause. The door clicked shut behind me. I walked through the restaurant, past the bar, past the host stand, out into the parking lot. The afternoon sun was bright. Traffic hummed in the distance. Normal Saturday sounds. I got in my car, set the folders on the passenger seat, started the engine, did not look back at the building. Inside that private room, silence had fallen like a physical weight. I knew because I designed it that way. Viral would be staring at those documents spread across the table. Sora would be looking at his father, waiting for an explanation that would not come. And Cale would be sitting there with 15 years of choices he could not undo stacked in front of him in black and white. The waiter would come by, eventually ask if they needed anything. They would not answer, because what do you say when the floor drops out from under everything you thought you understood? I pulled out of the parking lot, merged into traffic. My phone was in the cup holder, no notifications. Nyx and I had agreed beforehand he would stay clear of this. No contact until it was done. I did not text him, did not need to yet. I drove home through the city, parked in my building garage, took the elevator up. Inside my apartment, I walked straight to the office, unlocked the desk drawer, put both folders back inside, locked it again, not to look at them, not to relive anything, just to have them if the boundary ever got tested. I poured myself a whiskey, neat, sat by the window overlooking the street below. Across town in that restaurant private room. They were still sitting there. I knew they were. Because the truth is a heavy thing when you have been avoiding it for 15 years and suddenly it is laid out in documents you cannot argue with, signatures you cannot deny. Timelines that do not lie. Viral had come looking for opportunity. Sora had come looking for family. Cale had come because his kids pushed him into it. And maybe part of him thought enough time had passed that I had softened. What they found instead was a wall built from contracts they could not break in history they could not rewrite. The waiter had probably come by twice now, maybe 3 times. They still would not have moved. Cale would be staring at that termination of rights document, his signature at the bottom barely 24 hours after I confronted him in that diner. The choice he made in less than 5 minutes because protecting his music career mattered more than claiming his son. Viral would be trying to process that her father, the one who raised her, who she thought she knew, had done this, all of it, the affair, the abandonment, the signature. Sora would be quiet, probably not crying, just processing, and the silence would keep pressing down. I finished my drink, set the glass down. Tomorrow I had a meeting about a new contract in the mineral sector. Tuesday, Nix was flying in for a strategy session about his next career move. He had been offered a position in Geneva and wanted to talk through the pros and cons. Life continued. That is what they did not understand when they reached out asking for mentorship and opportunities. I did not build what I built by looking backward. I built it by making a choice 15 years ago to protect what mattered and walk away from what did not. Nix mattered, so I stayed. They did not, so I did not. It was not complicated. My phone buzzed. Finally, a text from Nix. Done. I typed back. Done. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then good. That was it. No follow-up questions, no need for details. He knew what today was about, knew why it had to happen. We would never speak about it again. I set my phone down, looked out the window at the city. Saturday afternoon, people walking dogs, couples heading to dinner. Normal lives continuing like they always do. Somewhere across town, 3 people were sitting at a table surrounded by documents that proved their father had destroyed one family and abandoned the child he created. They came looking for access to what I built. Instead, they got buried in what he destroyed. No revenge speeches, no dramatic confrontations, no closure, just facts heavy enough to crush them under the weight of choices made 15 years ago. And I walked away from it again. Not because I forgave anything, because I did not need to carry it anymore. I built something better than revenge, a life so solid that their regret could not touch it. Nix would be successful regardless of whether Cale acknowledged him. The trust was ironclad regardless of whether Viral understood why. My boundaries were permanent regardless of whether any of them accepted it. Their understanding did not matter. Their approval did not matter. What mattered was that 15 years ago I made a choice and I stuck with it. While Cale made a different choice and now sitting in that silent room with documents scattered in front of them, they were living with it. I stood, rinsed my glass, put it in the dishwasher. Tomorrow I would wake up and continue the life I built. They would wake up and sit with the ruins of theirs. That is not cruelty, that is consequence. And I made sure they would carry it alone.